Welcome to the Front Four Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Marchese, alongside me, as always, my co-host, Jeff Azzelparty. You can follow us on Twitter at MattyMar89 and at J_Party. Jeff, it's almost here. We've waited a long time. We're almost there. Fantasy football season, the NFL season, it's right here. I can't wait, man. I can't wait.
Me neither, Matty. Me neither. We're just 1 week away. I got my Bill Belichick hoodie on with the cutoff sleeves. Trying to be smart today and match the energy you can bring to this.
Yeah, I don't know what energy I'm bringing today. It's already been a long week, so I mean, it's I'm preaching to the choir over there.
Speaking of Bill Belichick, can we start where we ended last week? The day after we recorded, we found out the news. After we both said we expected, although to be fair, I think a lot of people expected Cam to be the starting quarterback of that team. And we learned now that Mac's going to be the leader of that team.
So I thought about that. I was like, should I scrub that from the podcast? And I was just like, you know what? The hell with it. I mean, we said Mac Jones was going to be the starter.
I think eventually. We were trying to determine when. I don't think many people saw it being for week one. I mean, anybody you follow expected Cam as the veteran to start the year off and then see where it went from there. So.
But even if Mac Jones started week one, I don't think anybody thought that Cam Newton was going to get released.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody saw that one coming. So if you saw that one coming and you're listening to this podcast or watching it, please let us know. You can tweet us at MattyMar89 at J_Party and tell us that you knew that it was going to happen, and I will call you a liar. I will call you a two-faced liar because that's what you are. All right, let's get right into it. So, like we said, fantasy football season is basically here, and we wanted to go over some guys that we like, we don't like, and guys that we're expecting to have some breakout years, and then we're going to talk about our favorite fantasy storylines heading into this season. So we're going to start with the breakouts. And I wrote about all this stuff, so I already have the advantage. Jeff had to do a little bit more work because my work was already done for me.
It's like when we used to work together, Matty. I'm doing all the work afterwards. Yeah.
Jeff isn't lying about that either. I legitimately did not do the work. I was the guy who just talked to people like, no, we're good. So if you want to check out my piece, I have a couple. Just check out my Twitter handle. You already know it. I'm not going to repeat it.
Give yourself a plug. Let's go.
I've already said it's MattyMar89. I've already said that.
You don't have to say MattyMar89. Do not say at MattyMar89 again.
Should I say it again? Okay, so DeAndre Swift is my guy. We already know this. It's very well documented. I love DeAndre Swift, but I look at the situation in Detroit, and he's being drafted at like RB 18 or something crazy like that. And of all the guys that are getting drafted in that area, I think that he has the best chance to finish in a top 8 position. I have him in the top 8 this year. I see a lot of Alvin Kamara in DeAndre Swift. And by the way, head coach Dan Campbell was the tight end coach in New Orleans with Alvin Kamara. Oh my God, what a coincidence. So I think that there's going to be a lot there. The pass catching ability is very well documented. And when he finally got some semblance of a workload last year, he started to produce. And then he didn't have to worry about Adrian Peterson. He didn't have to worry about Kerryon Johnson. So he's in a really good spot there. I'm not that concerned about Jamal Williams because Jamal Williams is a good football player, but is he going to take away a ton of touches from DeAndre Swift? Do I think he's going to get 12 touches a week? No, I don't. I think that's a lot to bank on for a backup running back. I know they paid him, but DeAndre Swift is the guy. So we're going to go 2 each here. So, Jeff, who's your first?
Well, and I'll just add to you, Matty, especially with Gared Joff. Wow, it's not easy to say sometimes.
Gared Joff. I like that. Yeah. He's the next quarterback. He might actually be.
Anyways, no, I'm feeling you on DeAndre Swift. I think for the Lions to do anything, they're going to have to count on him a lot. Okay, my first guy is Marquez Callaway in New Orleans. You know, Michael Thomas being out for the first bunch of weeks, I think he'll be the number 1 receiver. And with Jameis Winston behind behind center there. We know how he throws the ball downfield, and Callaway can get there, can get the ball. He seems to have been a better route runner and separator than Traquan Smith. So I think he can really establish himself in that offense before Michael Thomas comes back. And when he does, I think he'll still find a role in that offense. I mean, again, like I said, Winston throws the ball downhill better than Taysom Hill. So him being at quarterback only helps him. So I'm going to go with Marquez Callaway. Here's my first guy, because I looked at him first as a sleeper when we said we were doing sleepers, but actually he's being drafted a lot higher. I think his ADP is like 160, 163 right now. So that's a lot higher than he was first projected, but I really like him to have a breakout year this year in New Orleans. And by that means, like, he has one, and Jameis Winston might be having one as well. Like, they're right there.
Yeah, and Jameis Winston has supported 2 fantasy wide receivers. So to think that Marquez Callaway just disappears when Michael Thomas comes back, I don't think that that's the case.
And for those first weeks, he develops that rapport, and he's his main target. Like I said, if he proved in the preseason, like, the amount of separation he can get and how he runs routes well, I think he's got the leg up on Traquan Smith, and he's the #1 guy for the first few weeks of that offense.
The only thing that comes to mind is in The Longest Yard when they asked the guy to give him a scouting report on, I can't remember what Nelly's character name was, but he goes, so what's the report? He goes, he's so fast, he makes fast guys look not fast. And that's what Marquez Callaway does. He makes fast guys look not fast.
I like that.
I'm going to go to the tight end position. And this is a player that I think there was a lot of expectations because he was a 2nd-round pick with the Rams. And he was relevant in a few weeks when Tyler Higbee was down, or even when Tyler Higbee was there. But now Gerald Everett finds himself in Seattle. And there's a common misconception out there that the Seahawks just do not use their tight ends. Well, they do. They just really spread it out among the positions. So in 2020, they had 108 targets to tight ends. In 2019, they had 121 targets. Here's who they were throwing to at that position: Will Dissly, Luke Wilson, Jacob Hollister, Nick Vannett, and a broken Greg Olsen at the end of his career. So maybe they just haven't had the guy that they've wanted since Jimmy Graham left, I think in 2017 or whatever it was. So couple that with the fact that the OC in Seattle was also the quality offensive quality control coach and the tight end coach when Everett was with the Rams. So he clearly knows something about it. Gerald Everett's a really athletic guy. We've seen flashes where he's been great. He just needs to put it together for a whole season. I absolutely think that Gerald Everett can finish in the top 12 among fantasy tight ends. And he's
slipping in the draft, his ADP is up there. So yeah,
he's like you always talk about,
like, the value you always talk about, looking for those ADPs where you get the best value at it. Like, man, Gerald Everett is definitely one of them. And we all know, like you said, like, yes, DK will catch that deep ball, Tyler will catch the longer ball. But once they're in the red zone, Russell Wilson has a tendency to look for that tight end.
Yep. Yeah, and we've seen it with Will Dissly. We've seen it with other guys. Like,
exactly.
I think they're going to utilize Gerald Everett the way he's supposed to. And in reality, like, I'm not really worried about Will Dissly taking away some work from him. I think that Gerald Everett is the guy who's going to be the focal point among the tight end.
That totally makes sense, Manny. I'm going to stay with the wide receivers. I think this year there's so many deep wide receivers that can take a step up. And the guy we've been hearing about maybe being the sleeper this year, and I'm looking at to have a breakout year, is Darnell Mooney with the Bears. You know, like you talked about some of these being better options. Well, even Andy Dalton is an upgrade from what he had at quarterback in past years. Last year, he caught 61 passes for 631 yards, and I think he only 4 touchdowns. But I think this year, you can see upside with that. Like, never mind Andy Dalton as an upgrade. Once Justin Fields gets into that offense and he takes over, which we expect to be, I think, fairly early in the season. I think we talked about, I'm not sure if it was last week, but we've talked about, could even be after week 2 if the Rams just steamroll the Bears and Andy Dalton. Maybe they give Andy Dalton another week, but I think, like, by week 4, when Fields is in there, him and Mooney, they seem to have a bit of chemistry in preseason. So I'm really looking at Mooney to not just be a sleeper, but have a huge breakout.
I think Mooney's a great pick, and Allen Robinson is going to get his. I'm not really too concerned. But if you look at that Bears team, they're going to need to throw the ball. I can't tell you how many times I saw a video highlight of Darnell Mooney wide open.
Yes.
And whether it was Nick Foles or Mitch Trubisky, whoever it was, just couldn't hit him with a pass. And that's type of receiver, he's going to get open. He's going to get the ball now.
If Andy Dalton is an upgrade, like imagine you get an athletic guy like Justin Fields in. And let's be honest, like for wide receivers, usually the breakup years come in as a wide receiver too. So like you said, Allen Robinson will get his, but sometimes maybe they double team him. Guys will be watching out for Cole Kmet. So there will be times where Mooney can make that separation and be wide open, and hopefully who's ever at quarterback can find him.
Yeah,
like Dalton did a decent job stepping in for Dak last year. Like he found guys when he needed to. Hopefully he does that for the first few weeks in Chicago with Mooney.
Yeah, and like you said, once Fields is there, that's wheels up for Darnell Mooney and Allen Robinson.
Yep.
Okay, on to the bust category. This is a touchy subject because there are a lot of people that like some of these players that we will talk about, and we may hurt their feelings. And frankly, I don't care.
I think I'm gonna blow people's minds with one of mine, and it's gonna be. I just don't know if I should do a first or second. So
okay. You know what? Okay, let's leave those for the end because I'm gonna give one as well that I think is gonna blow people's minds as well. Okay. So I'll go with Miles Sanders to start things off. So he's going around RB19, and it's not horrible, but I don't feel comfortable with Miles Sanders as my RB2. So I was reading Matthew Berry's latest piece for ESPN, and shout out Matthew Berry. He's the Roto King. We know that. But he had a stat in his article, and I wanted to take it because I had written about Miles Sanders being a bust like 3 or 4 days before this article came out. And then I saw that stat, and I was like, man, I wish I had thought about that or even thought to look for something like that. So Sanders had 3 runs of 70-plus yards last year. From 2011 to 2019, 3 running backs did it, and they never repeated that feat again. So with that being said, if you take away those 3 runs of 70-plus yards, Miles Sanders was 41st among running backs per touch. So you now add in that Boston Scott's still there. You also have Kenny Gainwell, who they drafted in the 5th round, who's a very good pass catcher. He's very good in pass protection as well. And you have Jalen Hurts for a whole season taking away rushing yards from Miles Sanders. Somebody please explain to me where Miles Sanders is going to see the value. He's going to get goal line touches? Oh, great, because Jalen Hurts isn't going to take away any of those on read options. There's no chance, right? Or QB sneaks. Like Jalen Hurts, big dude, big athletic dude. Yeah, no, of course he's not going to take away goal line carries, right? I just think that if you believe that Miles Sanders can reach any higher than RB 15 or 16, I think you're nuts. His catch rate last year was under 50%, or hovering around 50%. That last time I checked sucks. So I don't see where he gets the volume to live up to the value.
Well, Matty, like you had a quote for the last segment we did. Here's one. Sometimes we just are what we know. What was it? Damn, no, I can't even remember.
Sometimes we are what we are.
Or yeah. Or you are what we think you are. Like, we've heard about Miles Sanders for how many years now? He's never lived up to it. It's like somebody in Philly doesn't like him. He's been almost like a bust the last couple of years. I mean, I don't see it being any different this year. And Jalen Hurts will just run the ball himself a lot. So, yeah, I'm with you on that one. I can't put Miles Sanders up there in my RB2 category.
Okay, so who's your not spicy bust?
Okay, so candidate? My first guy, this might even irk some people, but I'm going to go Mike Evans, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Ooh, that irks me a little bit. Okay.
Yeah. I know you're a fan of his, but hear me out. Like, there are a lot of mouths to feed in the Tampa Bay offense. And I think what we all heard is that Antonio Brown is going to have a much increased role. Tom Brady, we know the connection he has in that. Even last year, Mike Evans fell from 9.3 targets per game the year before to 6.8. And that's even with Godwin he missed 4 games last year. And like, what saved, I think, Mike Evans' career last year is that Tom Brady always found him in the red zone. I don't expect that to happen again. Like, not only do maybe I expect him to connect with Gronk a bit more in the end zone, I'm still a little bit worried about OJ Howard. I don't know, man. I don't see Mike Evans living up to that. If he doesn't have the touchdowns, like double-digit touchdowns for the season, he's not going to have that kind of year. And I just don't see it happening anymore.
So here's my only argument for you. And you knew it was coming.
I'm here for arguments, especially
you knew it was coming. Yeah. Mike Evans is basically a lock for 1,000 yards.
I knew you were coming.
But I agree with you that Mike Evans' season last year was heavily weighted on short touchdowns. And there are, Antonio Brown's going to get his red zone targets. He didn't show up until whatever it was, week 9. OJ Howard's coming back. I agree. He was in the doghouse last year, but it's another body. Gronk is going to take away touchdowns.
There's even a crowded backfield that we don't know how they're going to use that. Right?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of bodies there, depending how they incorporate them. Sometimes, like we talked about last week, these offenses are just too many mouths to feed. And like I said, his targets per game took a huge hit last year, and I expect that to go down even more this year.
Okay, so I'll pose this quick question for you.
Yep,
if you were to rate the 3 wide receivers in terms of fantasy finishes at the end of the year, how do you have them?
For Tampa or
Tampa.
Oh, yeah, Tampa. That's interesting. See, I want to know, everybody who's saying Antonio Brown's going to take a huge step up. I mean, I think it's Godwin going to be number 1. Then I'd slip probably one of the tight ends, and I guess I'd have to go with Gronk and then Antonio Brown. Like, I don't even know. Like, they even have Giovanni Bernard there, right? Like, as a running back, he might fill that James White role that Tom Brady had in New England, and I could see him even catching a bunch of balls. So
no, but I just mean in terms of just the 3 wide receivers.
The 3 wide receivers.
So if you're ranking Brown, Godwin, and Evans, how do you have them 1, 2, 3?
For me, I would rank Godwin 1 because of his athleticism. Antonio Brown just because of his connection with Brady, and then Mike Evans is the last guy on that list. Wow. Again, I just think we've seen the fall off with some of these guys. I don't know, man. And like I said, unless it's in the red zone, which I think Brady will find some other guys. Like if he's looking for Antonio Brown, like a lot of people are saying and expect it, like Mike Evans could be vultured in the end for those end zone passes by Antonio Brown.
Yeah. Hey, I respect the bravado. I mean, I still had them. I have actually Godwin and Brown interchangeable. I have Evans first still, just because I know he's gonna have 1,000 yards. I know he's gonna have 1,000 yards. I actually have Brown.
We're gonna play this back. I'm bookmarking this right now. We're gonna play this back.
We'll see. I got the tape. I just worry about.
I mean, and this is all based on health. Yeah, Godwin has to stay healthy. If Godwin stays healthy, this will be a problem.
And we're gonna talk about that in our 2-minute drill later on. Okay, cool. So now we're getting to the hot takey ones. Hot takey bust candidates. So I will go Trevor Lawrence.
Oh man!
So currently,
I almost had him as one of my breakouts. I'm gonna be honest with you, straight up. So yeah, this irks me a bit.
Like we could have battled over that.
We could have. I have him as a bit of a breakout this year. I think he's gonna just do well. Oh, but go ahead with your argument.
All right. So here's my take of why he won't. So QB 14 right now. I just don't see him living up. I don't see it. I know the weapons are good. I get it. He's got 3 really good wide receivers. He has a really good running back in James Robinson. You know what he doesn't have? An offensive line. That offensive line sucks. And you know what else sucks? Urban Meyer sucks. He's going to be a bad NFL coach. You will not see Trevor Lawrence live up to this hype of being this great quarterback, which I think he will be. Justin Fields is better. But I think that you're going to see that once Urban Meyer is gone. They didn't do enough to the offensive line. We've seen what happens when rookie quarterbacks get really gun shy, because it's not always about when he takes the snap and he's sitting in the pocket and guys are collapsing on him and killing him, or when the pocket does collapse and he has to run around and he's going to make mistakes. He's going to get gun shy because he's going to be feeling the pressure before it's even there because he doesn't trust his offensive line. You know what, Toto? We ain't in Clemson anymore. You don't have these mammoths that can protect you and you can have all the time in the world, or you're not going to have these receivers. Like, there is the college football window when throwing a ball, and then there's the NFL window for throwing a ball. You just don't have that kind of space. So the offensive line is my biggest concern. Urban Meyer is a totally different thing, but the offensive line is my biggest concern. I saw what happened to Joe Burrow last year. He got killed.
That's a fair point, yeah.
Right?
But until that point, no, it's fair.
But Joe Burrow had to be fantasy relevant because he was throwing the ball 38 times or 40 times a week.
For sure.
So I think that they do want to run the ball a little bit. And like I wrote in my latest piece about predictions for this year, I have Mac Jones finishing ahead of all the rookie quarterbacks. I think he's the highest scoring rookie quarterback because of the offensive line. And because I don't know when Justin Fields and Trey Lance are starting, because I think they have the higher ceiling. And I don't know what Zach Wilson's season is going to look like. I think it's a good team, but is he going to have to throw the ball 38, 40 times a week just to put up numbers? He might have to, but I just think that Trevor Lawrence just doesn't live up to the ADP. He probably finishes as like a back end QB2, and I know he's better than a bunch of these guys, but there's a lot of really good quarterbacks, and that's another thing that we're going to talk about later in the podcast. So who's your hot takey bust?
I just want to follow up on a little bit of what you said. The reason I took him out of my breakouts is because of that offensive line. So I do agree with you there. I think he's a smart enough quarterback. Yeah, don't count on that happening more often. But I do think he looked really good in that preseason game. I think it's a great comparison with him and Joe Burrow last year. If you can stay healthy, because he might be throwing the ball that much. Yes, they will run it. Yes, there will be a bunch of dump offs. But I also think a little bit of the plus you have with Trevor Lawrence, if he does get into trouble, especially in the red zone, he's not afraid to run the ball in.
No, he's athletic.
Listen, he is athletic. He'll take that chance. He'll try and run it in. And if he gets a couple of those rushing touchdowns, could just boost his fantasy value. But that's it. So here's my hot take. And this is more an offense I'm a little bit worried about, especially the quarterback and receivers. And when we talk about bust, it's a bit of a downgrade from last year. So I'm going to go Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Yes, exactly. I am a little bit worried. He's coming off an MVP year. Are we going to expect him to have that kind of year again? His offensive line is banged up. They lost a guy in the preseason. Bakhtiari just went down with an injury, and we saw what happens when offensive lines aren't at their strength. So like you're saying, Trevor Lawrence can beat up. I think we might be Aaron Rodgers could be getting chased around a lot. And at that age, when those guys start to have a fall off, it can happen really quick. If he starts getting beat up and he's chased a lot, I know he's athletic. He makes a lot of off-balance plays. But, man, if that offensive line can't hold up, I see Aaron Rodgers being in trouble.
That hurts my feelings, Jeff. Because Aaron Rodgers, outside of my team, the Bills, is my favorite player to watch. And I actually think it's the reverse. I think Aaron Rodgers is going to play so well, he's going to stick it to the Packers and be like, trade me now. We did this already. Now you're trading me. Because I do believe that there is something worked out between he and the Packers, that if he wants to leave, that they will trade him.
Oh, yeah.
And I think he wants to screw them and be like, you know what? I'm going to go. I'm going to have an MVP type year again. And you know what? You're not going to be able to have me anymore. So that's how
I said, I just think the Super Bowl really taught us, like, losing two key offensive linemen can really be an issue. Yeah. And I'm expecting people to get in the back. Like, I'm even worried a little bit about Aaron Jones. Like, in any draft I'm in, if it comes down to him and Nick Chubb, I'm going Nick Chubb for that same reason.
Ooh, Jeff, we are disagreeing a lot here.
Well, that's what we do. That's why we're doing this podcast, man. Like, I'm just worried about that offensive line a lot in Green Bay. And if he doesn't get off to the great start, I don't know. I mean, we've had him see some injury struggles in past seasons. Could happen again if he's getting hit a lot. He doesn't like to get hit. We know that. So we will see. And again, he still doesn't have the offensive weapons that he wants. Like, I mean, of course, there's
you got Randall Cobb back. Come on, man.
Yeah, let's go. Let's keep it old.
Anyways, my God.
Yeah. So I wanted to say that. I'm a little bit worried about that. That offensive line, for the same reason you picked Trevor Lawrence, I'm going to pick Aaron Rodgers.
I respect the bravado, Jeffrey. I respect the bravado. You got to have.
Like I said, he's an MVP. So if he's not MVP, I'm still right. He's a bust.
And Aaron Rodgers versus the field for MVP. I wonder what kind of odds you get for that. Right? All right, on to our sleepers. So these are guys that are going around ADP 200, maybe a little bit before and later. I wrote about Tony Jones Jr. in my previous article, so I'm not going to use him, but it would look really, really opportunistic if I did that now that Latavius Murray has been released, but I will not. But I will go with a tight end. So going tight end 33 off the board, Carolina Panthers, Dan Arnold. Tall, athletic, won't block much, but he'll get
all over the tight ends this week.
Yeah, man. Tight end university, baby. 14.1 yards per reception last year, was only behind George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and Robert Tonyan, among guys that finished in the top 24. He also was like fourth, I believe, in top 24 or among top 24 tight ends in yards per target. This man gets downfield. And I think that the Carolina Panthers with Sam Darnold, who was also another guy that I had that I really liked at an ADP higher than 200, I think that he's in a really good situation and he's got weapons. Dan Arnold was used sparingly last year in Arizona, and I do believe that they will use him a little bit more in Carolina. There's a reason why Carolina wanted to upgrade at the position, because Ian Thomas just wasn't doing it for them. So Dan Arnold fits a bill. He's 6'6", 220. So he's not a big guy that's going to block, but he's a mismatch athletically. Like at 6'6", he's going up against, bigger corners who are like 6 feet. That's not a big human being. 6'6" is big. And then he's faster than the linebackers that he's going up against. So I really like Dan Arnold at that number. Maybe he's only a weekly streamer, but I do think that there is some value there. And don't you just want to hear Darnold to Arnold, the connection? I want to hear broadcasters. Darnold to Arnold touchdown. So I'm big on Dan Arnold this season. I think that he's gonna have a good year, and not for anything. Like maybe this is me just being taking it too easy, but how hard is it going to be for him to finish higher than tight end 33, which is what he's going at right now? I mean, it ain't that difficult. So, okay, maybe I took the easy way out, but the hell with it. It's about time I get the easy way out.
You're not. You're all over tight ends. I'm all over wide receivers this year. I'm going to pick another one here. And man, Arnold to Darnold, I can't even say Jared Goff. So I'll move past that. That's why I think
what did you call him? Gared Joff. Gared Joff. Yeah,
I'm still getting used to this podcasting. I'm not on air as much as
don't worry about it.
Did I actually say that? Yeah, I did, right?
Anyway. Job, yeah.
So the first guy I'm going to look at, I know we were looking around the 200 ADP mark. So this guy just falls right underneath. And it's Gabriel Davis with the Buffalo Bills. Now, I know you might say Cole Beasley's in front of him. Emmanuel Sanders is in front of him, although Emmanuel's dealing with a foot injury a bit this preseason. Those guys are in their 30s. Gabriel Davis is young. He was second in red zone targets last year as a rookie for the Bills. So there's some kind of chemistry there with him and Josh Allen. I could see that increasing. The Bills run the second highest percentage of 4 receiver sets, so he'll still be on the field. He can do it. And we talked about this last week, I believe, in those offenses that have numerous options. We don't know who the number 2 option in the Bills pecking order is going to be, or in fantasy values, like after Stephon Diggs. We don't even know who that second guy is going to be. I look at Gabriel Davis as possibly being that guy on the regular and creating some separation between Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders. I don't trust the running backs to a full degree. Neither of them are going to step up majorly, I don't think. So Gabriel Davis is one of my sleepers this year.
I think Davis is a really good pick, because when you look at his numbers last year, quietly had 35 catches for 599 yards, and he had 7 touchdowns. The Bills don't have that big tight end that they can trust in the red zone, sort of. They like Dawson Knox a bit, but they don't love him. They explored options to replace him, even though maybe they didn't go to the full extent. But Gabriel Davis is going to continue that role, like you said, as a guy who's going to get red zone targets. The one
he was on the field 73% of the snaps last year. As a young guy, I expect that to go up even more. Like I said, they run a lot of 4 receiver sets because I don't think they trust their running back. Gabriel Davis is a guy I keep my eye on to bring that consistency. And like I said, man, if I had to pick an MVP right now this year, it might be Josh Allen. So I think he's going to throw the ball a lot. Makes you smile. I know. I'm smiling. But I mean, I think the Bills are ready to take that next step, and they need that secondary threat. And I think Gabriel Davis is that for the Bills.
So Stephon Diggs has had some sort of knee injury. If Stephon Diggs misses any time, I think that Gabriel Davis becomes the focal point. I don't hate it. I think that Cole Beasley's floor is better in PPR than Gabriel Davis's, just because they don't have the tight end, and that's where the underneath stuff goes to Cole Beasley. He'll eat there. So I think that's why I see him as the second option. But I love Gabriel Davis. If you watched him in that playoff game against Indianapolis, he was incredible, making those those 2 toe tap grabs on the sideline. I mean, that's a really good receiver, and they really lucked up. Okay, I spent a lot of time talking about Gabriel Davis there. I'm sorry. I waxed poetic about
it's
my
good, man. Especially when you're telling me how right I am. It's awesome. Like, that's perfect.
You know what? I hate Gabriel Davis. He sucks because Jeff thought. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so I'm going to go with a wide receiver with mine as well. Paris Campbell, wide receiver 75. I think he's like his ADP is literally just over 200. He's working out of the slot in an offense that does a lot of short yardage passing. And I think that that's going to be great for him, especially at the beginning. No T.Y. Hilton. He's on the IR. Don't know how long he's going to be out for. But Paris Campbell brings speed. He brings good hands, and he brings good route running. That's a very, very good combination last time that I checked. And I don't know how much they trust Carson Wentz right now to air the ball out and be consistent like that. So I think we're going to see a lot of short yardage passes. Michael Pittman on the outside is going to get his. But after that, like, I don't know. I don't really trust Mo Alley Cox at tight end. Jack Doyle is much of the same. Kylan Granson's a rookie, even though they really like him, it sounds like. But am I scared of Zach Pascal on the other side? No. If Paris Campbell stays healthy, he is going to absolutely shatter that wide receiver 75 ADP. I think it's easy for him. It's just, can he stay on the field? Because over the last 2 seasons, he hasn't been able to. But I love Paris Campbell.
Great. Okay, now we're going to switch. You took a wide receiver, so I'm going to go to tight end. I'm going to take New Orleans tight end, Adam Trautman.
Ooh.
I like him a lot, Maddie, this year. Like, I'm not saying he's going to end up like a tight end 1, but I think where you can get him, like at his ADP of 214, is huge. Like, I know he hasn't had too much on-field success. He was only on the field for 37% of offensive snaps, 34% of specialty teams. When you look at his college numbers, and I think that was just, sorry, let me go back. I think that's a bit of learning on the field. Like, he learned from Jared Cook. Like, he's going to learn some stuff. You know, Sean Payton loves guys just watching the offense and getting used to it. And I think that's what he was doing. If you go back to, but here's the thing. So out of 16 targets last year, 15 of them were receptions. Like, that's pretty crazy. You want efficiency, you want consistency, that's it. And the fact that Jameis Winston is now the quarterback, I think, like, takes away Taysom Hill running those touch those red zone balls into the end zone. Jameis is going to be looking for a target. Adam's a huge one that he can hit in the end zone. So I really like him. And where he's being drafted, I think you could get some great value. He'll be there at the end of the draft, and I think he can really perform. I mean, put him on your bench, see what he does, see if he has that connection with Jameis Winston. And again, with Michael Thomas being out, I already talked about Callaway, but Michael Thomas being out, like, you know, gives them a running start to get that chemistry with Jameis Winston. So I think there could be something there.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that we're going to see a different type of New Orleans offense.
Yeah, it's a changing of the offense there.
Yeah, they don't have to worry about Drew Brees' noodle arm at 40 years old. Like, Jameis Winston can huck it. And he's going to. Like, that's what we're going to do. We're going to see Alvin Kamara get his. We're going to see them run the ball a bit. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to throw to somebody. I'm still not sold that guy is Traquan Smith as the secondary option, because I think you're right. I think Callaway is the first option until Michael Thomas gets back. And I think that they're going to be able to push the ball offensively. I think that New Orleans is sneaky good with Jameis Winston. And remember, I know this is going to sound like a joke.
Me too.
But like, Jameis Winston got laser eye surgery, and people are going to be like, oh, no. Listen, if I don't have my contact lenses in, I'm blind. I can't see anything. My wife asked me, she's like, we go to sleep and she's like, can you look at this? I'm like, no, I can't. I'm too feet away.
I'm with you. I think people are downplaying just how much that can help them. And again, even sitting behind Drew Brees for an entire season, like, he might have to learn some stuff. Yeah, exactly. Like 100%. That's the way Sean Payton does it. The fact that he won that offense over Sean Payton's guy shows you how good he is. He's still throwing 30 plus touchdowns. Like, come on, let's go. Those have to go to somewhere. And Callaway and Trautman are my guys, man, this year. And I'm looking for, I don't think that offense is going to miss too much of a beat. Like, they're still going to put up numbers. So I don't know. Let's go.
Nope. I think that that's a good point. I also don't think that Jameis's interceptions are going to be as high either.
Right. No,
I think that number is going to get cut down.
That's like, that's
30 interceptions. I mean, come on. By the way, I was just thinking about this. Like, we still have a draft left, and we're giving away state secrets to each other for our last draft.
I know, no kidding. And everybody else, if they want to listen, they can snake us so bad. So
if they were smart, they would listen.
Or who to drive up prices in our auction line. It's true.
Yeah, you know who I really like this year? I really like Josh Jacobs. You guys should really go after Josh Jacobs. Have at him. Okay, final of our 4 topics before we get to the 2-minute drill. fantasy storylines that we're looking for or looking forward to seeing. For me, it's how much the elite QB gap changes. So last season, the difference between Josh Allen at QB1, this is according to fantasydata.com, the gap between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, who have finished QB10, was 64 points. That's it. From 1 to 10 was 64 points. From 1 to 14 was 129. I think that gap changes. I think that gap gets significantly shorter because as long as guys stay healthy, obviously health is a huge caveat when it comes to quarterbacks because one or two big ones go down every year. It's inevitable, or they miss 4 games or whatever the case may be. But having said all that, I think that when you look at how quarterbacks are being drafted, and we talked about this last week, the gap from being elite to being very good is not a lot. So I think that guys like Matthew Stafford, who are going later in drafts, like Jalen Hurts, like Ryan Tannehill, who's still going later in drafts, would you be at all shocked if any of those guys finished in the top 5 in fantasy scoring? Because I wouldn't. Would you be surprised if Jameis Winston was a top 10 quarterback this year?
Not at all, man.
No,
I agree with you.
So I think that the gap is closing. So I'm really curious to see if that does come to fruition because I do believe that is going to happen.
Well, and that's going to be made by guys like you said, Jalen Hurts. How good is he, right? Like we know they went out and got Gardner Minshew. It gives me a bit of trepidation about him. And like one of my storylines I'm about to get to is the Dolphins, just in general. Whether it's that offense, I don't know what Tua is. The fact that they're going after Deshaun Watson, what is that? Can they stay healthy? Like, and what's Myles Gaskin? Like, how much different things of him have we seen? He is on my radar for being a fantasy MVP that could win you your league if they give him the work that they gave him last year. To how they insert Malcolm Brown, what they do with him, and what he vultures away from Gaskin. Like, I don't even know where Gaskin is on my radar right now. Like, I could see him. Like, if you told me he's going to win you your league, I believe it. But I don't trust that offense yet. And I don't know what Tua is. Again, the fact that they're in on Deshaun Watson scares me about him, tells me they don't have full faith in him. Some of the receivers can't stay healthy. Like I like Gesicki a lot, but like the rest of the receiving core, what are they? And that defense isn't going to be as good as it was last year. I think they lost enough people to make a significant impact on them. So what are they going to be? But the Miami Dolphins are the most intriguing team to me, and mostly because of Tua and Myles Gaskin. I don't know how they're using them.
I agree. I agree on the Gaskin thing. He could either win you your season or he can be the guy that you went, oh my God, I drafted Myles Gaskin instead of James Robinson. Right. That would have been earlier on, but that's the type of guy that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, so
you listen to some people, they give him that workload he had last year. He proves he can do it. Like he could win, but I don't know what they're thinking there. And this preseason has just made me even more confused about it. Like from what they said week 1 to what you saw, like whether that was coach's speech or what. But now the fact that they're not trusting, it doesn't seem to me they're trusting Tua. Same reason I have trepidation about Jalen Hurts, like going out and getting Minshew, like tells me something's going on there. I mean, it seems to be the Philly way that they don't trust anybody there, like you talked about, Miles Sanders, but I have no idea, man. That's one of the ones I'm watching for because that offense could have a significant impact on your fantasy team, or it's just going to kill you.
You're talking about the Dolphins.
Yeah.
No, I agree. Okay, so I'm going to stay in the division. Will the Buffalo Bills ever use their running back so that they can be fantasy relevant? I don't think so. I've seen enough from this team. You talked about it. They ran the most percentage of 4 wide receiver sets last season, and I kind of look at it like this. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They made it to the AFC Championship game throwing the ball. Do they need to have a more effective running game to be successful? Sure. But for fantasy purposes, doesn't matter. If you draft Josh Allen, insert him into your lineup, don't take him out except for a bye week. That's pretty much how it works.
Well, I just said to you, I think Josh Allen is a leading candidate for MVP. I'm looking at him to have an even, which just seems crazy to me, a better year than last year. But because I think and for Buffalo to take that next step, they have to rely on him. So I think he's going to be asked to do even more. And a big portion of that is that I don't see what they do with their running backs, or that they trust one, or that anybody can lead them, or anybody steps up out of those two. We keep hearing good things about them, but I don't think that offense fits towards the running backs.
They almost need an injury for one of them to be relevant.
Right. But even that, we saw that last year. Even with Zach Moss out, Devin Singletary had a couple good weeks, but man, there was nothing consistent about it. So we know that offense can function without them being big time players.
Yeah. So I have, you have one more or two more? Because I have one more after this.
Oh, no, you go ahead. That's pretty much the only one I have.
Yeah. Okay. So the other one that I have, and we kind of spoke about this with offenses that we wanted to target, is will Dallas, Cincy, Tampa, and Pittsburgh be able to support 3 top 36 wide receivers?
Because history shows you can. Like, I'm with you.
It's possible, but okay, so Dallas is the only one of that group of 4 that doesn't have 3 that are being drafted in the top 36. Because Michael Gallup is like at 41 or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it's just really interesting to me. So if 3 of those teams support 3 wide receiver 1, 2s, or 3s, that's 9 guys that take up the 36. I don't think all 3 can. I do think that Pittsburgh is going to be able to because of the way they spread the ball around. I do believe that Tampa is going to be able to as well. I'm not sold that Cincy is going to be able to because I just don't know if the offensive line is going to be able to hold up. Dallas is the one caveat because I really like Michael Gallup as a receiver, and we'll see what happens. But Michael Gallup was kind of a boomer bust guy last year. They have talked about using him across the formation, using him out of the slot. So I think if he does get a little bit more work out of the slot instead of constantly just being out wide playing opposite of Amari Cooper, and then they flip him and CeeDee Lamb a little bit, or all 3 guys are interchangeable across the line, I think that that's where Michael Gallup's value is going to increase. So I think that 3 of the 4 teams can do it. I'm not certain that Cincy's going to be it.
So here, actually, I'll give you 2 more really quick ones. Not going to get into depth on either one. First is going to be some of the injured players from last year and how they bounce back. Is Dak the same? Can we believe any of this stuff about his shoulder? What's Saquon Barkley when he comes back? And do they give him the workload that they did? Same with Christian McCaffrey. So all those guys who were knocked out for almost the entire season last year, how did they bounce back? Because those are guys, a lot of those guys you're taking at the top of your drafts. Can they and do they get the same workloads that they want? So that's one of them. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
I will add to Barkley. I think that Saquon Barkley, don't tell anybody, but I have him in my rankings. I have him as the RB1 this season.
That's cool.
I think totally he can outscore Christian McCaffrey. I think that they drafted Chuba Hubbard for a reason, and I think that the Giants only brought in Devontae Booker for a reason.
I just hope, again, it's New York. You don't know what happens. Strange things happen over there. Sometimes we see when a running back gets hurt, it's tough for them to stay healthy, especially with that workload. I really hope that's not the case for Saquon, but who knows? So I am curious to see all those guys and how they bounce back. Yeah. The last one I want to throw at you is Matt Stafford and how he does with the Rams. A lot of people I'm seeing are picking the Rams to maybe make a Super Bowl run. And for them to do that, Matthew Stafford, never mind Josh Allen, you might have to play it it'll be a lot on him, especially after Cam Akers went down and stuff. It's going to be a lot on the QB in LA. Can he have an MVP year or an fantasy MVP type year? What is he? I've been hearing about how great Matthew Stafford was. What just was that he didn't have the weapons in Detroit. Now he has a ton of weapons in LA. And can he take them and just raise his value even higher now at the end of his career almost, or as he gets later into the career? I'm really curious to see what Stafford does in LA, and especially for fantasy purposes.
Stafford, I think the biggest benefactor of Stafford is Robert Woods. Everybody wants to be on Cooper Kupp, but I think it's Robert Woods. Yeah. Robert Woods, his fantasy production, he's elite. He just doesn't get into the end zone. And I don't think that that's on Robert Woods. I think it's on the play calling, and I think that will change.
And he's a workhorse, dude. He's out there on almost every snap. Cooper Kupp, we've seen take a few bad shots, unfortunately, and get hurt a lot. Robert Woods is out there almost every week, and is just a workhorse. And he seems like a tough dude. So I'm with you on that.
I have, if I can pull it up quickly here. I may or may not be able to because we'll see how my computer wants to operate. But I have some numbers on Robert Woods over the last 3 years, and this was 3 years with Jared Goff as his quarterback, and it's not
just crazy.
And the numbers, Jeff, are maybe not surprisingly because we know how good Robert Woods has been. But okay, so here it is here. In the last 3 years, he has at least 129 targets. He has at least 936 receiving yards, 86 or more catches, and a catch percentage of 64%.
Wow.
That's here's the thing. What separates him from the other guys is that he only has 14 touchdowns in those 3 seasons. He had 6, 2, and 6. That's just so for PPR, sure. But if he can get into the end zone, if he can consistently get to 8 touchdowns with Matthew Stafford, you're laughing.
Well, here's the other thing, man. You're just talking about all those offenses, all the mouths to feed, and where they end up in that the rankings. People are picking Higbee as a huge, a tight end, as somebody who can break out. I know, but they're picking him and they might need him. I don't see it either.
Sure.
But he could, if he becomes fantasy relevant. Same with Van Jefferson. The way Stafford can throw the ball downfield better than what was his name? Gared Joff.
Gared Joff.
Yes. Okay. I'm gonna keep going to that. Better
That's the title of the podcast. Gared Joff.
It might be my new fantasy team name. It might be my new fantasy team name. Anyways, the fact that Stafford can throw the ball further downfield and better than him, like it wouldn't surprise me if Van Jefferson becomes fantasy relevant somehow.
Don't forget about Deshaun Jackson, who will play 3 games. He'll have 190 yards and 6 touchdowns, and then he'll get hurt for the rest of the year. Okay, time for the 2-minute drill because my cat is telling me that it's time for the 2-minute drill. All right. Chris Godwin, quad injury. That has to be wheels up Antonio Brown and Mike Evans if he is out for a period, right?
Without a doubt, man. I couldn't agree more with that one.
Okay, that was an easy one. I knew that.
Yeah, I know. There's not much to add to that because it's so true.
It's like, yeah, Matt, they're good. They're really good. Okay, DeAndre Swift has been cleared to play and will be ready for Sunday against the Niners. So I said my piece about DeAndre Swift. Are you worried about Jamal Williams at all?
I'm not worried about Jamal Williams. Just more worried about DeAndre Swift staying healthy and also about the way they use him in Detroit. I don't know what their game plan is. I've told you this in the past. I don't trust the play callers in Detroit. I don't know like we talked about Myles Gaskin. I don't know how much they fully want to rely on DeAndre Swift and how much they rely on him. If that hurts or hinders him, like he's going into the season a bit banged up. Like I think he's even questionable for week 1, isn't he? So like I'm just not completely sold on him. It wouldn't surprise me if he's up there in the top RBs, but yeah, man, it must be a Detroit thing. I just don't trust the Lions and how they use them. Like we saw it fall off at the end of last year. Yeah. That's my only concern with there is the play calling, the coaches. I mean, new regime there, but like to me, you have to prove it. And he's got the talent. He's big enough. Like, you know, they've had other running backs there in the past, and it just seems to be no consistency there.
Yeah. No, the talent's certainly there. You know me, I'm big on him, so I'll say it's wheels up for him. The Ravens brought
and he's falling in the draft. Like, trust me, there's been a few drafts he's there.
I've seen him
without a doubt. Like, people are worried about him, and I'm not that's like broken on him. Like, if he's there after a certain point, there's no doubt I'm taking him.
If you get DeAndre Swift as your RB3, you can. Yeah, I think you can pencil yourself in for a championship. Maybe not in pen, but pencil for sure.
Without a doubt.
Ravens brought in Le'Veon Bell and Devonta Freeman after Justice Hill's season-ending Achilles injury. Remember when we talked about the Ravens having too many good running backs? Yes, now they have none. Well, they have Gus Edwards that's still there. I don't know. They
have to bring one of those guys in. I would have laughed at that. I'm still laughing at that. But what choice do they have? They have to bring one of those guys in.
Okay, so let's get to this last one because we can couple the two together. So Latavius Murray, we mentioned, released by the Saints. Wheels up Tony Jones Jr., shout out Notre Dame football. But I wonder if the Ravens are taking a look. They have to be taking a look.
Without a doubt. They're taking a look at anybody right now.
But Latavius was good last year. The other two guys were not good last year.
Dude, so he stepped in. He had a couple monster games last year, without a doubt.
So now with that being said, let's talk about that backup running back position with New Orleans quickly. Latavius Murray the last 2 years has had 800 plus yards and 5+ touchdowns. That is a position that produces fantasy relevance. So if Alvin Kamara gets hurt, I never want to bank on that because the guy who walks into that is not going to be having the same type of workload as Alvin Kamara. But that guy does still have value even in bye weeks as a standalone guy. Like, he doesn't kill you if he's in your lineup. And Tony Jones Jr. looked really good.
Well, to cut Latavius Murray, he had to look good. Like, they believe in him somehow. Yeah. And the fact of what he could do, like Latavius Murray is a completely different runner than Alvin Kamara. But when they stepped in there, like, he still had 100 yards gains. He had touchdowns. He did it all. Like, he could run through the hole. He would find the holes and run them. Burst through him like he was awesome.
And a decent pass catcher
as a backup.
Yeah, he's a decent pass catcher as well. So I think that position, like if you can get Tony Jones Jr. late in your drafts, I would recommend doing that if you still have him. And he's probably on the waiver wire in most leagues. Go pick him up.
And here's, as a guy who like to watch the Saints, like something that sometimes happens, like say we said we don't expect them to fall off completely. We could see a good turnover there. They can make a run at the playoffs. And if they do get in the playoffs, like those later weeks, like around playoffs, championship week, like they might be resting Alvin Kamara and giving him a bit of a lesser workload. And who's going to pick up that slack?
Tony Jones Jr.
So if you have him on your bench and you can plug him in those later weeks, like, wow. And like you said, like, unfortunately, if there's an injury to Kamara, he's getting it all now that there's no Latavius Murray.
Yeah, that it's going to be, I agree with you. The Saints, I think, are going to be a lot more fun to watch than people think that they are going to be. All right, that's going to wrap it up for episode 2, which is going to be titled Gared Joff. No, wait, that's not his name.
Joff.
Gared Joff. So
you know when you just go to say something that comes up, it's like, wait, what? Yeah.
What did you say? What did you say, idiot? I believe me,
I think it comes from working in a place where sometimes you're not allowed to mention certain people's names, so you change the syllables at the beginning just to get away with it.
How many times have we done that? We've been there, done that, got that t-shirt.
Rat Snarkazy, my co-host. What?
Yeah, okay. He's that bastard is a rat. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for us here today on episode 2 of the Front 4 Fantasy Football Podcast. Check us out on Spotify. Check us out on YouTube. We should be up on Apple Podcasts very shortly. Hit the subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at MattyMar89. Follow Jeff at J_party. That's it for us. Talk to you next week. Peace.